Tremendous here, and I got another book review for you. This one is called Mage Tech Duet. It's a fantasy, sci-fi, cyberpunk with just a hint of D&D in it. It's written by Matthew Warner. It was published back on March 16th of 2022, so just earlier this year, and it is a whopping 358 pages, so you can really sink your teeth into this book. And yeah, let's get right into it because I'm actually very excited to talk about this one. Okay, so here's a spoiler-free review. I might touch on a few things that are be minor spoilers, little small things. I apologize in advance. It shouldn't ruin the story for you. I do encourage you to go out and check this book out, read the story, and come back. We'll have a discussion in the comment section. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah. Hopefully, I won't reveal anything too big. If I do, again, I apologize in advance. But I'm going to really try not to. So the main character's name is Samuel Coventry, and he's a black guy who's like the Jason Bourne only cyberpunk version in this world. He's experienced like 13-year assassin for a group of we'll say mages, cyberpunk mages, kind of like the techie mages. There's a whole bunch of, they call it spatial tech in this world, and basically it's reverse engineered alien technology that it's found all over the world. They find it in Antarctica. It doesn't matter where. They find it all over the place, and they've converted it into stuff that's really super cool. I gotta be honest. The author does a really great job of telling you like what all this stuff does, and it's kind of original and stuff like that. It's nothing that, I mean, yeah, sure, there is some similarities to other stuff that's already out there, but for the most part, it's really original, it's really well described, and it fits. There are a couple of things that flirt with Ex Machina. I'll get into that in the spoiler-rich review part of it. I don't want to get into too much here. But bottom line is the badass assassin, he's kind of like Batman meets Dick Tracy meets a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert. He breaks the fourth wall. He's got like a touch of Deadpool in him. It's kind of neat. I liked it. You find yourself liking the main character right away. He's a badass. The thing about it though is he comes off as this heartless, cold-blooded killer, right? Like he's been doing it for over a decade, men, women, occasionally children when necessary. But yeah, he walks into a room that his boss sends him to go to and erases everyone, right? And that's what he's been doing for a long time. He's a loner. He's cruel. He's the kind of guy that chews glass and spits nails and all that stuff. But until he's not, and that's kind of the issue, and we'll get into that to a minute. But he stumbles into a turf war between his two bosses, or between his boss and another boss. There's many bosses all over the world, but all these bosses kind of control different sections of the world, but it's like a shadow thing. They call it the underground world or something like that. But basically, they're hiding in plain sight. They've got all this technology and all this advanced magic and stuff like that, but of course, the real world, they call us Mainers, they don't know anything about it. And they want to keep it a secret from the Mainers because just like an ant, sure, their technology and stuff like that makes them superior to us, but if they're surrounded by 1,000 ants, they're going to get chewed up and spit out. Even if they kill half of them, there'll still be 500 ants biting them. So that's the idea. There's not enough of them to control us yet, although that's kind of what leads to one of the bosses trying to push for something to happen. And eventually it leads to an Armageddon situation that's based off all the technology. Go figure. And it's really good though. Like, this is how you storytell. Yes, there's a handful of issues. I'll get into that in a minute. But for the most part, this book is phenomenal. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Like, I wasn't bored. Even in the slow parts where there was no action going on, it was interesting. The author knew exactly when to introduce new tech, exactly when to introduce new conflict, new problems. Nothing came easy for this character. As badass as he is, nothing comes easy for this character. There was a few things that I think the author took a shortcut on in order to push the plot forward, but nothing that ruined the story or upset me or anything like that. It was really great. I want to touch on a few things. The cover Like, I like this cover, but this cover has nothing to do with the story whatsoever. Even the title, Mage Tech Duet. So the main character is not a mage, although it hints towards a skill. I'll say skill that he might have that gives him an advantage, but it's not magical as far as it's never really confirmed one way or the other, so I don't really know. The so there are mages, the bosses and stuff are mages. There's a lot of psychic mages out in this story. So I guess yes, the mage part it can be there. The tech part, there's a ton of awesome tech in this book. It is so cool, some of the equipment that he comes up with. I really liked it a lot. And the duet, I mean, yeah, there's a supporting character who's like a pop star, and he likes jazz music, but maybe I'm thinking of the wrong meaning for duet. I don't understand the title. I don't get it. It's not really. It doesn't really fit with the book. Not that that's world shattering or anything like that. But the story itself, the book itself, when I first looked at it, I saw like the beehive design in the background. So I'm thinking some sort of sci-fi. I see the wizard with the flames and the cool background. I'm like, okay, so this is some sort of magic. And I see Earth, a picture of Earth and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so this is our world. So interesting. No, the main character is black. Like, I don't know why there's a white guy on the cover. I don't know. I guess this could be one of the bosses, but nobody's really described as walking around in a black robe. Rassilon isn't in this book. It's just, and yes, that was a Dungeons and or I'm sorry, a Dragonlance reference. So I don't get the cover. Yes, would it make me pick it up and look at it? Sure, absolutely. This cover caught my attention, but it just seems like this should be redone. Like, it doesn't really showcase or give a glimpse into what the book is about. And I mean, I don't. It just feels like with what the book's essence is, this cover mismatched. Again, not world shattering, not story ending or anything like that. It's just the cover. After I read the story, the cover bothers me a little bit. Editing, phenomenal, phenomenal. I don't know who his editor is or if he self-edits or what, but the editing, the formatting, the story flow, everything is excellent. There was no issues, no errors. This is a well-edited book. I was very happy. The story flow was fantastic. I was never bored. There was never a time, and y'all know what I'm talking about, when you get to a low point in the book and you're like, yep, don't care, and you start skipping paragraphs just to get back to something that catches your attention. It happens. We all do it. That didn't happen for me in this book. I read it from cover to cover, page to page. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and the feel was good. It's gritty. It's that same feel like when you're if you watch the movie like The Watchmen or something like that. It's that almost like you need a shower afterwards. It's that dark, gritty feel of the book. Really, really well done. So I want to go over some, spoiler-free reviews, the pros and the cons. The pros, like I said, I think I've already beaten this horse pretty good, but phenomenal storytelling and outstanding world building. He doesn't take too long to do all these things, and he introduces it to you in digestible chunks. You get to meet the main character. You get an idea who he is. There's a little bit of action to draw you in as he's doing one of his jobs, and you discover a lot of his really cool tech. I'm going to give a small spoiler. He's got a black hole shotgun. I'm sorry. That is the coolest thing. And it's like his favorite weapon, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I just Oh, sorry. I know. Small spoiler. It's not going to ruin the book or anything. You find out in the first like 10 pages about this thing. So I'm not going to say how he uses it or anything like that, but it is so cool. And, it introduces different tech. It shows you what the different mages and the different, cyberpunk stuff can happen, the fantasy stuff. It's very cool. And it's constantly like that. Every new scene introduces just a little bit something more that fleshes out the world just a little bit better. And by the time you get to the end of the book, it's kind of like you're in the cyberpunk dark fantasy world of Narnia. It's very cool. Yes, this is my world, but it's like there's this whole other place that's there now, and it's very cool. The main character is a badass, but he's a believable badass. He when he gets into fights, it's a lot more realistic. I mean, I know I've made some comparisons to Jason Bourne, but Jason Bourne, great movie, great character, don't get me wrong, but things are a little bit, just a little bit too lopsided in his favor. Yes, the main character is a badass. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert. I would not say master, because even he admits many times in the book, yeah, I screwed that up. Ooh, that was sloppy. Ugh. But the fights are realistic. When he fights another bodyguard or assassin or something like that, he's not overpowering them. It's not a one-sided fight. It's very close. He gets hurt. He gets hurt a lot, and it's realistic. Now, obviously, the tech helps him heal quicker, but until he gets that healing, though, like, I don't want to give any spoilers, but he loses functionality of his body, like would normally happen if you took the kind of damage he took. The gear that he has doesn't make him Superman. It does enhance him sometimes. It does give him great protection. There's a lot of really cool protective devices out there, but at no point does he ever walk into a situation where there's like even 3 or 4 bodyguards or assassins around where he's like, oh, I'm John Wick and they just killed my dog. No, he makes a point to say, I'm good, but nobody's that good. And so, and when he makes mistakes, and he makes mistakes, which is so cool to see, he pays for him. He gets hurt. Yeah, something usually pulls it out, or he gets lucky, and that's touched on too. He seems to be touched with luck. You'd have to read the book to get more into it, or wait until the spoiler-rich review portion. Completely up to you. But I love that. I love a flesh and blood main character, that isn't walking around with cape and tights on. You know he's vulnerable. You know he's human, and the author nails that. I love that. This main character is amazing. Like I said, the tech is outstanding, and the story never gets boring. Not once was I bored reading this. I loved it. Almost, 360 pages, loved every page, really did. The supporting characters weren't NPCs. They weren't cardboard cutouts. They weren't there just to flesh out the world. They all had their own personalities, their own lives. Like when one of them was taken out or involved in some way, shape, or form, you felt like they were a real person in the story, not just a cardboard cutout for him to tear through or to be used for something or another. There were a few times where his interactions with them didn't match with the character's personality, not the way he was portrayed, in my opinion, but I'll get into that more with the spoiler-filled reviews. The vernacular used in this book is great. Everything's, I think it was drab or something like that, or Darb. Darb was the word. Darb was basically some sort of jazz term or something like that he thought was really cool. So instead of saying, cool or, I'll be back or something like that, his thing was kind of Darb. It's just, I know, I'm a huge nerd, but that tickled me for some reason. I really enjoyed it. And there was something about it. It was the best parts of Batman, Dick Tracy, Shadowrun, and just a touch of Dungeons and Dragons, just a touch of D&D in this book that it hit all the right notes. I really liked that. Some of the cons, there were a few conveniences that gave me pause. There were some issues. There is a tech device that, again, a little minor spoiler here. There's a tech device that lets him travel within 5 minutes of something happening, and there doesn't seem to be any limit to it. It wasn't like he couldn't, once he traveled once, he had to travel back to his original part. It was very ex machina. It felt like the author was cutting corners. One of the very few times, and yes, this is 100% me being nitpicky, but I didn't like the way that, with all the clever and intelligent uses of technology that this author uses, this part with that particular technology, it felt like maybe the author wrote himself into a corner and made this up to fix it, and that bothered me. It felt like a shortcut. One that this author, in my opinion, is better than. Again, it was not story ending. It didn't ruin anything. It just felt shallow. It felt like a weak use of it. And then, of course, when the enemy got control of it again, they didn't use it immediately to fix anything, giving him time to ensure that what he did stayed in court. It was, like I said, very odd. Wasn't my favorite part of the book. There's also times in the book where the character changes his personality, or at least his approach to things, and there's no reason for it. But of course, it works out for him. He's not a huge fan. I mean, he's not a fan of people. He doesn't like them. I mean, he's an assassin. Kind of makes sense, you know. They typically don't have the great people skills because their job is to end people. But then all of a sudden, he's got this soft side for women. And then he's got a soft side for kids. But he says in the book that he's killed men, women, and children without thinking about it. Like, it never bothered him. And then for no reason whatsoever, all of a sudden, he develops a soul after 13 years. I don't know. I needed a justification, a 2-sentence justification of he just had enough of being cruel. It didn't seem right. Justify the sexism, you know? I'm sorry. Justify it a little bit. If all of a sudden this guy who's been murdering men, women, and children like the NPCs that he thinks they are, and all of a sudden he develops a conscience for no reason, then give us a reason. Give us a motivation behind that. Let us know why. There was no reason for that. It was just like the plot needed it to happen in order to make this guy likable, maybe. It feels like somebody told him, your character's not likable, have him stop killing women and children, and he kind of went with it and shoehorned it in. Again, it doesn't ruin the story. I really enjoyed this book, but it does bother me. It feels kind of like a little bit of a plot hole. Another thing is sometimes the main character would feel really strongly about a person. Like, this is my friend. This is somebody I want to protect. This is someone that I care about. But then they become in danger, and he's like, I'll get to it. Whatever. You know, at one point, sometimes he really respects and loves and cares about his boss. And then in the next chapter, forget that guy, you know? Just like, again, it's a small nitpicky thing, I know, but just a few sentences of why, explaining that shift, and then why he's shifting back to caring so much. It's weird. And then the luck factor, how he kind of ex machinas out of a few situations, or how things just kind of conveniently work out for him. The book hints towards the fact that he might be touched by luck, or maybe he's a wizard and his skill is manipulating luck, but it never really solidifies it one way or the other. There are things that negate wizard powers that don't seem to negate his luck. Again, super nitpicky, I know, but it was like, it irked me a little bit. It's like, why all of a sudden is he getting so lucky? I don't have a problem with that being a character trait, but let us know. Even if the character doesn't know, let us know, like his bosses and stuff, like the big bosses that are running everything. If they were to just say, does he know about his special, ability? No, and don't say anything about it or it might negate it. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure. Or, just that quick, real fast, side conversation that maybe he even overhears but doesn't understand they're talking about him, but the reader does, would have gone a long way to justify some of the things that happened due to quote-unquote luck. But again, read the book, let me know what you think, and come back to the comment sections. I'd love to have a conversation about it. So with all that said, what do you think? Out of 5 stars, what do you think I gave this book? Well, I gave it at least 1 star. There's another. There's 3. I did the 4th, but I couldn't give it 5. It's 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I'm going to tell you why. This book is great. I love this book. I hope that there's a sequel. I hope that it's coming out. But a 5-star rating, I intentionally make very, very difficult to get, because those are for the tip top of the storylines and stuff like that, of the books that are out there. And this one, while it is a phenomenal story, and I really, really, really enjoyed it, there was a handful of things that just, I had to shave that star in half. From what this one is. Again, I don't want to get into spoilers here too much, but there's things that happen in the book that that were too jarring, that were too wrong, that they're just plot holes. The cover doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, I just don't, who is this guy? The main character Samuel isn't a white guy. He's not a mage. He's an assassin. He's never in a cloak. He's in a leather jacket. He's in armor and stuff like that, like tech vests and stuff like that, bulletproof armor. He's got a shotgun. He's got a lot of cool stuff about him. I'll get in that in the spoiler rich side, but it's just there was some plot holes and stuff I'll get into in the next section of this review. I couldn't give it 5 stars. I wanted to. I actually debated it for a little while, but I believe integrity first, and so this book is a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Just shy from a tremendous 5 out of 5, and I'm sorry, but I had to be honest. And if you stick around for the spoiler-rich review, I'll definitely let you know why. But let's take a quick break. If you don't want spoilers, I understand that. Please go check out this book. Links to buy it on Amazon are in the description. I highly, heavily want you to go and check this book out. Come back, let's have a conversation about it because I'd love to know what you think. And yeah, here's a quick pause, and we'll go and get into the spoiler full review. Okay, this is spoiler rich review part. This is spoiler filled, so if you're still here and you complain because I give you spoilers, it's on you. I'm not taking that. So, Samuel Coventry is a badass cyberpunk assassin. I've already said that. The world is full of these mage-like bosses. They're psychic mages that can make you, they can basically, they're called puppeteers. They can make you do whatever they want. There's like inquisitors or investigators, whatever they're called, where basically they can make you tell the truth or search your feelings, search your brains, and find out what you're thinking and know whether or not you're telling the truth. They're like empaths, but they call them something else. The word evades me right now. Sorry. There's pyromancers, literal fire starters. Actually, that's pretty badass. There's a whole bunch of different stuff they do. They've got like these cameras where basically they can look at stuff and basically have a photo album of your life from start to finish. It's pretty cool. Like I said, the spells, the magic, and the tech in this story is amazing. The black hole shotgun is exactly what you think. It forms. He shoots you with a shotgun round, and when it hits you, it of course does damage, and then a singularity opens up and sucks you in, and he uses it like a champion, like an intelligent assassin would, to get rid of evidence. He's got this thing. It's basically a bag of holding. Like I said, there's touches of D&D in this, but it's a bag of holding. He calls it his tooth bag, and basically, if he taps his molar 3 times with his tongue, it opens up basically a bag of holding inside of his mouth, and he can stick anything in there. It's infinite. He could put the whole world in there if he wanted to, theoretically, and it would sit in there. I mean, he would die because, atmosphere and everything, but he puts everything there, all of his gear, all of his stuff, all of his medicine, food, rations. Basically, he's got his bug out bag in his tooth the whole time. At one point, he puts live people in there. We'll get to that in a minute. It's super cool. The tech is the book is worth reading for the tech alone. The imagination on this author is tremendous. I love it. But basically, Samuel has been an assassin for about the last 13 years after his foster parents died. He was in the foster system his whole life. When he was born, he was found in a dumpster. Basically, he went from foster home to foster home until he found his final foster parents who took him in, straightened him out, got him on the straight and narrow-ish. They got him into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Basically, they gave his chaos an outlet. And he really, really respected him and loved him. And so when they died, he was very upset. They died in a car accident. Who actually killed them? You don't find out until the end. I'd rather not give out that spoiler because it's actually pretty good, but we'll get more. We'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, he's obviously very upset that his foster parents are dead, and he does on his off time try to find out who killed them because it was like a hit and run accident. They got T-boned. He's pretty sure it was an assassination, but he doesn't know why, and you can kind of connect the dots here. Samuel is he's a black guy. He's a very cool guy, but he's racist as hell. I'm not saying it's not justified. He works and deals with some of the worst parts of society on the planet, and his whole job is to kill people, but everybody's a cracker. Everybody's the other words. White people are the devil, and yeah, he's an angry, angry dude. There is a moderate amount of kind of forced racism in this book a little bit. Not that it hurts the story. If anything, it helps kind of flesh it out. But for some reason, a pop star, a white woman pop star who's got all these fans. Basically, it's like Britney Spears in her heyday. But yeah, she hires on a couple of redneck racist guys, with the mullets and the handlebar mustache thing going on. It's a little on the nose, but it does add to the story. It's not it can get a little preachy at times. I read for escapism, I get that, but it does help flesh out the story and the character. So I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but it is something that will catch your attention if you're reading a book. One of the things that he admits to very early on in the book is that he's killed tons of men, women, and children. He doesn't think about it. If the boss says everyone in this room has to die, everyone in that room has to die. But all of a sudden, he develops a conscience. Like, I don't understand that. It kind of comes out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he becomes kind of sexist. He's like, I don't want to kill, or it's not that he doesn't want to. It's just that he all of a sudden develops a problem with killing women. And he still does, but it's like he feels bad about it afterwards. And it even confuses him. The author does make it so the main characters even like, where is this coming from? In my opinion, that needed to be explained because it just feels like it's going against the character. It would be like if you found out about Harry Potter's crack cocaine addiction all of a sudden. It doesn't make sense. Like, why? All of a sudden, where did this come from? A few lines of dialogue could have straightened that out. And that kind of bothered me a little bit. I know what it is. It's the author needing the character to be more human, to not be a complete and total bad guy, just doing good things. He didn't want him to be a complete anti-hero, but it just feels like if you try to walk that fence too much, you get racked. And I feel like he got racked a little bit on this one. He hates everything and everyone until he doesn't. I know it's like supposed to be the tough guy persona and all that stuff, but he kills people for a living. And then all of a sudden, like, he loves his boss and he respects him and he owes him everything, to, I can't wait to kill this guy. Right back to, gosh, he's a good people. I was wrong to doubt him. And he bounces around a lot, and it just feels like this character wouldn't do that. This character seemed a lot more grounded than the head in the clouds romantic that he kind of becomes every once in a while. And that eats at me a bit. One of the problems that I had, the tech is amazing in this book, and the author does an amazing job describing it and coming up with unique ideas. Yes, it touches on other things that are already out there, but the author makes it his own, and I love that. The black hole shotgun, I cannot say that enough. That is so cool. But there are some things that bother me about how the tech works and how it gets him out of things that it's too clean, it's too convenient, especially for this book that nothing is clean or convenient is. It doesn't happen often, but one of the biggest, in my opinion, problems is this thing called a bookmark. Basically, it's this little dot that goes on your head and it starts recording. Now, all the other technology seems to need to be, I don't know, bonded or attuned to you in some way, either through surgery or tech or practice and repetition or study. But at one point, he gets into this fight with these hitmen that are coming in there, these teams of elite soldiers, just like him, that are trying to kill him. And of course, it's very difficult. He actually dies a couple of times, but he's able to get this bookmark off of one of the guys. He rips it off his forehead because that's where it goes, and he slaps it on his own forehead. And then for no real reason, I mean, he does go through like a thought process, but he's never seen anyone do this before, or at least it's not been in the book. And he figures if he slaps himself in the head, it'll activate it. And of course it does. And it's like, okay, sure. For some reason, humans reverse engineered a thing called a bookmark. And what this thing does is allows you to go back about 5 minutes in time to change things. So if something happens, like you get shot in the face, you can go back 30 seconds and change that. And it's, again, if that technology really exists, then that person's effectively immortal for the rest of life. There's no way you could ever stop them from being who they are, from winning any situation. So whoever has this technology wins. but he's able to struggle with the elite super secret bad guys. He gets him into a headlock, some sort of Brazilian jiu-jitsu move, and he rips the bookmark tech off the guy's forehead, slams it into his, and all of a sudden it just starts working. His tooth bag, he had to have surgery and weeks to learn how to use it and interface with it. And all that thing does is open a bag of holding in his mouth, a big black hole basically. But it took a lot out of him. But this bookmark tech, this dot that changes, lets you go back, 5 minutes in time, that you can just slap on your forehead, punch yourself in the head, and activate it. Shortcuts. Ex Machina, I don't like it. And of course, eventually, he jumps a whole bunch. It's kind of a cool interaction. A lot of neat things happen with that. I won't lie. It's a very cool little scenario or a scene that happens there. But what bothers me is the enemy eventually gets it back, but he doesn't activate it immediately to go back 5 minutes to undo everything he does. Instead, he tries to kill the main character, knowing the guy who owned the dot, the bookmark, knew he was going to have to go back in time to fix everything that this guy did. But instead of doing that, he tries to kill him, knowing that he's going to go back in time anyway to try to fix everything he did. He could kill him then. There's no reason to do it, but it gives him time for the main character to kill him, therefore stopping him from doing anything like or changing anything that Samuel fixed. So that eats at me a lot. That feels like a huge plot hole to me. And it's one of many reasons that I hate time travel in any story, because it's just garbage. I don't like time travel. I don't. And that's a personal thing. But in my opinion, the way that was handled, the way it was worked out, it was a plot hole. It was ex machina, and it was unearned. The author is better at that, in my opinion. So another problem that I had was in the very beginning of the story, the first mission that you join Samuel on, he is invading basically a drug den. This lady, her name is hilarious. He even makes fun of it, but it's just great. It sets the tone for the whole character. But she's created this stuff called Witch Brew, which basically makes the user immune to psychic powers, basically mage powers, for 10 minutes. It's great. It gives him a huge advantage on a lot of things, and he uses it very intelligently. He takes the whole box from him, kills everybody because that was the boss's orders, and then basically uses it to evade interrogation by mages and stuff like that. It's super clever. But later on in the story, he's basically on the moon. There's a huge alien presence on the moon that's hidden by, of course, their chameleon tech, which is super cool. But he's on the moon, and he's trying to stop this world-ending bad guy that's up there. And he runs into these blue aliens that are there, and he attacks them, and they fight back. They try to take him down. And for no reason whatsoever, there's no reason for him to do this. He pulls out one of the injectors full of witch brew and stabs the guy with it and injects him with the stuff. Which, I had to reread that part a few times because I must have missed something. Why would he do that? He came up here with a gun to kill these people, and these two they could stop him. They could ruin him, and if he doesn't succeed in doing this, as far as he knows, the whole world's going to end. Like, everyone's going to die. So the fact that he injected this alien for no reason with this witch brew, it didn't make any sense. But you know what? It turned out it was great that he did, because, spoiler, turns out that all the aliens on the moon were being controlled psychically by the big bad guy. And how did he know that? Why would he do that? I wanted a few sentences to explain how Samuel deduced that this was something smart to do. It would literally be like, I can't even come up with a good analogy, because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever what brought him to do that, why he thought that would be a good idea. I know why. The author needed the aliens. He needed to show that the aliens were being controlled so that they weren't all, bad guys. They were just victims of the main bad guy. But it was unearned. It needed to be explained. It needed to be why the character did that needed to make sense. There was no reason for it, and that hurt the story a lot, in my opinion. Another time that this happens is he switches. So he finds out where from his boss, where this other boss is staying, and his boss okays him to go and kill this other boss, right? So he's going to invade his compound, like his big boss compound, and kill him. That's his job. That's what he goes in there to do. When he gets to the boss's compound and starts to infiltrate it for no explained reason whatsoever, and I went back and read a few times to try to figure this out, he switches to non-lethal rounds. There's no explanation for this. There's no reasoning for this before, during, or after. But instead of killing all the boss's guards and stuff like that, and the people that will take him out if he misses, or if they wake up or something like that, he chooses to just put them to sleep with this sleep gun, basically. It was lazy. The reason for it was, of course, because he was going to talk with the boss, and if he had killed a bunch of his people, then of course the boss, he would have had no reason, no legit reason. The author basically wrote himself into a corner. If Samuel killed this bad guy's guards, then why would he not kill Samuel when he inevitably gets captured a little bit later? So, but again, super convenient. It's a good thing that he did that for no reason. The explanation for this, in my opinion, would have been simple. He switched to the sleep gun because all he has to do, it doesn't matter where he hits somebody with the sleep gun, they're out for 30 minutes. If he shoots somebody and he only hits them somewhere and it doesn't kill them right away, then they could raise the alarm, they could fire back, and then his stealth mission is over. Two sentences worth of explanation would have fixed this, but it wasn't there. Instead, Samuel was just omnipotent, and it's not good. That was bad. That actually aggravated me a little bit. So these are some of the reasons that unfortunately this book couldn't hit 5 out of 5. It was just, there were these plot holes that they needed just a touch of explanation in order for it to make sense and fit with otherwise phenomenal storytelling. The tooth bag in his head is my favorite part of the book. At one point, he's stuck in a safe room with this woman, her kid, and this other woman who's out cold because she's suffering from diabetes. She needs insulin, so she's out cold. Well, he's got this tooth bag, and they're about to blow this place up, and he can probably survive it, but he doesn't have enough protective gear with him in order to make sure that these people survive. And for some reason, he cares about them. So the kid, it's great. The kid looks at him and goes, can we go in your tooth bag? And he's like, I don't know. I've never tried it. It's a great scene. And he's like, you could die if we do this. And the lady's like, we're going to die if we don't do this. So he swallows him up like a snake. And he's like, this is super weird. It's such a great scene. And it works out. It kind of puts him in like a cryogenic thing. But the author's smart too. The main character's got a bunch of supplies in his tooth because it's an infinite bag of holding. And he's got these oxygen breather things that he's got with him. And it says earlier in the book that he's got a bunch of these things for just in case. He's got to go swimming. He ends up somewhere where the oxygen gets pulled out. These things, they're spatial tech. They're the sci-fi tech. They just kind of create the atmosphere you need in order to breathe. So he puts that on, all three of them, before he swallows them, just to ensure that they'll be able to breathe. So really, really clever writing, and it's a great scene. And it works out. Everybody survives. The main character gets beat all to hell, but everyone else survives. But that's something else that bothers me. He bends over backwards to save a famous woman and her son. So he gets this job with this famous woman named Eva. And the reason he gets this job is because his boss sends him there to infiltrate the place to find basically this magical plane of power. It's where the ley lines cross. And if you're familiar with Shadowrun or anything like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, basically there's points on the map where if you go there, magic is uber strong. He goes there to find where this place is so that eventually he can kill everybody there and his boss can come and control this location. That's the entire purpose. He knows that going in there. This is not something he hasn't done before. But because the lady is nice to him, like, it doesn't really say why he all of a sudden cares about her. It doesn't say why he cares about the little kid. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just it doesn't match with the character's personality up to this point. And it's never justified. In fact, quite a few times he says how much she's annoying or how much the kid would irritate him. But for some reason, it's just not. And it feels forced. It feels wrong for the way this character was put in there. And honestly, if he had just killed them off and taken over the compound, this book would have been a lot shorter. I mean, it would have been so much easier because all the problems would have been over and it would have just been boss versus boss, which actually, now that I think about it, would have made the story even better. Like, I don't want to say better, but it would have stuck with the tone and the feel of the overall story up to that point. This guy's not a paladin, you know, he's not a good guy. He's an anti-hero. And I think that some mistakes were made trying to humanize him a little bit. In fact, I humbly suggest that dehumanizing him even further might have made this an even better story. Not that there's anything wrong with the story the way the author did it. Like I said, it's 4 out of 5 stars, but just my opinion, just off the top of my head as I'm talking about it. Really amazing fights. Very quote unquote realistic. He doesn't go in guns blazing and takes out rooms full of bad guys with, you know, only a small flesh wound. If he makes a mistake, he pays for it. He gets hurt really bad. I mean, he gets stabbed in the chest at one point and loses control of his left arm because the pectoral muscle is just all shot, and he loses feeling in it, and he's bleeding out, and he gets tired, and he runs away. He runs away in a few of the fights because nope, this isn't working out. It's so rare to see that nowadays with all these Mary and Marty Sue characters running around where they can literally walk into an army of 500 and take them out with a 6-shooter pistol that never seems to need to be reloaded. This guy runs out of ammo. This guy has to adjust. He has to think on the fly. It's wonderful. Every fight was very, very entertaining because you're like, how's he going to get out of this one? What's he going to do? There's a lot of dark humor throughout the story, very similar to like Deadpool and stuff, just kind of self-depreciating, kind of sarcastic. I laughed out loud multiple times while reading this. And I read on a train sometimes, so that was kind of embarrassing. The ending is interesting. I don't want to give away the ending, but he doesn't lose in the end, but he doesn't win either. They kind of just kick the can of Armageddon down the road a little bit. It's interesting. I thought that was a really good touch. Instead of, you know, he wins and gets the girl and gets his big Captain Morgan stance. No, nothing like that. He succeeds ish. It's pretty cool, actually. It's a little corny. He does become the boss. His boss gets killed during the final battle, and in his will, the boss names him as his successor. Really weird that it works that way, that you can just will your leadership and your territory to whoever you want. I have a real problem believing that would be respected at all, but that's how it ends. And even the main character does acknowledge that it's stupid, it's weird, but he settles down into it. But you know what? I'm okay with it because I like the character, and it sets itself up for a sequel, and I'm really hoping that there is one because I would read the hell out of that. So yeah, no change, no argument. I didn't talk myself into or out of anything. Definitely a 4 out of 5 star book, which is phenomenal. Just a hair away from being a perfect book, for the reasons that I already went over. I'm not going to keep beating this dead horse. I really do encourage you to check it out. I really do encourage you to read it. It's a phenomenal book. If you like sci-fi, if you like fantasy, if you like dark cyberpunk stories, this book I think you're really going to enjoy. Check it out. The link is in the description. And after you've read it, please come back. Let's have a conversation about it. I'd love to know what you think. And that's it. That's the end of the review. Unfortunately, I couldn't add this one to the tremendous story shelf, but it was close. It was close. I was dusting off that spot there. It really was. If you think that you know somebody or have a story that's self-published that could make it onto the shelf, please send it to me. I'd love to review it. I'd love to see it. Check out all the description. I've got the description video on my channel. Please check it out and let me know. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, please feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.